So, since I've finished reviewing the main Rock Raiders line, I thought we'd take a look at a couple of the extra sets that they released a year later in 2000, minus the Rock Raiders video game, which actually did come out in 1999 with the original line. So why don't we just go ahead and get that out of the way first. This is a real-time strategy game that, like I said, was released in 1999. As you can see on the back here, they released Legoland, Lego Racers, and I think they had a couple more out at the same time. So they were doing a lot in the media scene. And this is a really cool game. I've actually been playing it in this past week while I've been reviewing the Rock Raider sets, and I really like it a lot. It still holds up. I remember having a good time with it as a kid, and it's still a good time now. So if you can find this CD, I think it's pretty cheap. I want to say between like $5 and $10 on eBay. I would say grab it if you like those types of games. And here on the inside, you can see we have an advertisement for some of the sets. And I've reviewed all these if you want to go check those out. And then real quickly, we'll also take a look at this Jet keychain. It is just the Jet minifigure. It was released in the year 2000. It just has this keyring attached to the top, and the whole assembly does not come apart. I think you can pull like the legs and the arms off if you really want to, but those are not designed to come off. And then we've got the Lego logo printed on the back, and that's the only difference with the actual minifigure. This is one that I did have on my keychain, not this one specifically. That one's actually really torn up. But this was the only Rock Raiders keychain released. I wish they would have made one for a couple of the other figures, because I would say Axel and Sparks are my favorite. But just still a cool oddity that they released, and I'm glad that they did. And now we can take a look at the main thing I came to review here today, which is the Mini Heroes collection of Rock Raiders figures. A lot of people think that the reason they stopped doing these Star Wars Mini Heroes is because it infringed on Hasbro's right to action figures. Since these are pretty much just minifigures by themselves, Hasbro probably didn't like that. That's unconfirmed though, just assumed. But as such, I'm still not sure why they stopped selling sets like these where it's their own IP, so they don't really have any exclusivity rights that they're infringing on. So as it stands, it's just a kind of a one-year oddity that they just released and then never really did again, and I'm not quite sure why. So from left to right here, and let me go ahead and remove this second chief here. That was just one that I had an extra of. Anyways, this one right here is set 3347. It was just Chief by himself. This one in the middle here is three figures, Sparks, Bandit, and Dox. And that is set 3348. And then we have on the right here set 3349. That has Jet, Dox again, and Axel. And I couldn't really find a price on these specifically. Puron doesn't have it. I don't believe Brickset has it either. But one of the sites did have the City Mini Heroes with three minifigures listed at $5, I believe. The only one that I got back when I was a kid was the Chief one, but I doubt he was $5 on his own, maybe $4, I'm not quite sure. It seems odd that they would charge $5 for three and then even $4 for one, just seems strange. So these sets do have unique Rock Raiders display pieces, as well as these small little background cards, which I think are really cool. And then we can turn them around and see a little bio and a picture of the minifigure. It says, Chief, he is the captain that commands the LMS Explorer, and during missions he stays on ship commanding his men. Which I think is maybe a little bit of a cop-out as to why we didn't see him in the main line. Although I'm glad that they did finally release this as an actual minifigure. And surprisingly, this guy now, I couldn't find any used prices on Bricklink. But according to that, he sells for $150 new, which is pretty insane. I remember, and that's how I have two, is me and my brother got these at a old Lego store that was like basically just trying to pawn these things off. I want to say they had them for like $4 or less there back in, it had to be like 2004, 2005. So he was definitely overstocked at that point. And maybe that's just because he didn't sell well. I don't even know if they made many of these. So I would guess that a used one could be worth over $100. Which is just pretty crazy for one tiny little minifigure, but I mean, I get the collectability of it. There's no other way to get this specific Chief figure and him being the leader of the Rock Raiders. If you're trying to collect Rock Raiders, a lot of people want to have him for the completeness of it. So the actual minifigure has this dark gray torso and dark gray legs. He has a unique torso print there, and I actually really like that one a lot. It does look great. And then he's got this dark turquoise arm here. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be like a robotic arm, but I really like the flair that that adds. It's even got a dark turquoise glove. It just makes this minifigure pop and stand apart from the rest, which I think is great. He also has this really scruffy looking mustache and hair with big bushy eyebrows. I think that's funny. He looks exactly like he sounds in the Rock Raider video game, which if you haven't heard that, I would recommend going looking it up. And then he's just got this light gray helmet and a visor. And of course, some binoculars so that he can lead his operation from the LMS Explorer. So then we have our next three figures here on the same platforms the Chief was on, and the background for all these is the same, although the descriptions on the back are obviously different. So we have Dox, the geologist. Dox is full of ideas and can think his way around any problem. Dox is a keen explorer and an explosives expert. Then we have Bandit, the helmsman. Bandit is happiest on the water, sailing underground lakes and riding the rapids, an expert navigator. And then we have Sparks, the engineer. Sparks is an expert on all things mechanical and electrical. Unfortunately, he is also very, very clumsy, which is pretty interesting. Another interesting thing here is that while these two minifigures are the same as the ones that we saw in the main line, this Dox does not have the neckerchief that we see throughout the main line. He has a, let me pull him off here, a brown backpack, which is pretty interesting. And then he also has this much larger shovel, which we never saw in the main line. And I don't know if that's going to focus in there. There we go. So the shovel says Fabuland, and I assume this is from the Fabuland line. Obviously, I don't know why else it would say that if it wasn't. But it's just an interesting choice that they used here and changed up his neckerchief. And pardon the dust on a lot of these. They have been on display for just years. I keep these out even when my other Rock Raider sets are away, just because I like to have all the minifigures out, since it is one of my favorite lines. But anyways, these are the last three minifigures from the Rock Raiders Mini Heroes collection. Again, we see Dox, and interestingly, this time he is back with his neckerchief and a traditional tool that we see in the regular line. But then, since that's too boring, they decided to change up Jet and Axel for some reason. And back when I first saw these, it quite confused me. I was like, could they just not remember what the minifigures look like from a year ago when they released them? So here we can see the standard Jet minifigure from the original line, and this one here, for some reason, has a trans light blue visor as opposed to the trans neon green of the original. And then she also has dark gray legs and blue hips as opposed to just full blue legs from the other one. I'm not sure why they chose to do this, and at first it bothered me, but after reviewing the main line again, I will say it's nice to see a little bit of diversity and mixing these minifigures up, since we saw so many of them in the main line. So it's kind of grown on me over the years. And then again with Axel on the right here, we see that he, for some reason, has a black visor instead of the trans neon green as well. The rest of him is the same, other than this tool that he has here, some sort of flamethrower that never appeared as a build in the Rock Raiders line. Not sure where that came from, not sure why they'd need that underground. Flamethrower just seems kind of odd, but oh well, it's something they included. And another thing I should note before we move on here is that these connect on the underside with 2x2 brown plates, and it includes, I believe, 3 in each one, so that you can keep connecting onwards, so you can actually connect them all in a row. I think that's pretty neat. Then on the back here we see their bios again. Axel is the driver. Axel is an expert driver. He can handle any kind of vehicle, but is happiest behind the controls of the giant drilling vehicle, which is pretty strange. I don't know what they're referring to here with the giant drilling vehicle. All I can think of is like the granite grinder or the chrome crusher, but none of those are abbreviated GDV. And then another interesting thing is that here it is spelled AXEL, although sometimes in official media they have also spelled it AXLE, so I'm not quite sure what is the canonical way, I guess, to spell that name. Then we see Dox again. He is the geologist, and interestingly, he also has a different bio here. It says Dox is a very clever man. He's renowned for his skill in locating precious Lego power crystals and Lego ore. And then lastly, we have Jet, the pilot. Jet is courageous and strong-willed. She is a very skilled pilot and is always ready to take on new and exciting challenges. So that is the full Rock Raiders Mini Heroes collection. I can't really talk price on these because you are hard-pressed to find them used. Most of the time that you see them, they will be new, which is interesting to me. I guess people just don't really keep them together, don't really sell them used. And again, it's hard to pinpoint price on these in general since there are so few of them left. Although I would say anywhere between $15 to $25 new for the 3-character pack seems to be a fair going rate online. And then Chief is just not really reasonable to get anymore at the price that he goes for, and with how rare he is, I don't really ever see him for sale on eBay. And I think there's like literally 2 sealed ones on Bricklink right now, so unfortunately that figure might just be gone for good. And I certainly couldn't recommend spending $100 on a single minifigure. Anyways, that is my review of the Rock Raiders Mini Heroes collection, and thank you for watching.